Shalom, Israel. Real quick video giving all praises to Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai by Hashem Rakakadash, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai, double honors to the apostles, elders, bishops, the great millstone. Much salutation to the brothers teaching word for the hopeful elect, soon to be the elect, most high will. Getting right into it. Hopeful extended elect, shalom, blessings. The Mannerisms says a lot and it talks about the mannerisms of Esau and Jacob. Even with music, I'm using music as an example, and almost every rock group, look, they got long hair, and this was a common thing among rock groups. You had people like Guns N' Roses, Def Leppard, you had White Snake, you had Sister. I mean, I think, no, I'm thinking of you had Sister. And this is a common thing. This is Esau is basically in his natural state, or more so his children or whatever. Now, among our people, you did have, the androgynous stuff like Prince and Little Richard and, that feminine sodomite stuff. But here's another. Then you had that group called Kiss. Is this them? And they all look like females, and they all probably got the girlfriends, Um, come on, man. And this is not our origin at all, This is the norm for Edomites. What they say, sex, rock and roll. I think this is Guns N' Roses, and I think that's Slash. I think he's a Jake, the guitarist, and here's that band Kiss. Then you have people like Marilyn Manson, tights and makeup and long hair, and and this is definitely incorporated in the music because the so-called white people run the music industry. So Jake gotta, if anything, he gotta hang around people or be cool with these kind of people to stay in the industry. So that has to be incorporated into the fabric of the whole music industry that includes R&B and hip hop. So you'll have Jake hanging out with these kind of people, and sometimes, or at least seeing them perform and giving them homage or introducing them. Yeah. But, and then even that Jesus character, he looks like a sodomite rock star, man. Yeah, Kid Rock. Now some of these may be Jake, but and I know a few of them. I kind of knew all the names of them, Led Zeppelin, but some of the names stick out more than others. You had Bon Jovi. You had and then some of the ones that do more of a different kind of rock or a slightly different kind of music, such as Queen. They had Jakes. Who was that? David Bowie. had that song called "Let's Dance." See, and this is no problem. Look at this. This is muscular, so-called muscular dudes, probably at least 6 feet tall, that got makeup on, and it's normal, and you know, and they, like I said, these are the same type of people that got girlfriends. And the thing is, our people don't talk about these people. Like, they'll talk a hell of shit about Jake, but they won't talk about these people. And um, and they say, well, that they don't concern us. We only worried about black stuff. And no, man, the black music community, the black sports community, whether it be sports, we're talking about music right here, but whether it be sports or like I once said, Olympic boxing, whatever, wrestling, they are intertwined with the so-called white people. Sitcoms and major, movie roles, major movies, major acting roles. They have to work with the so-called white man. I mean, he rules the industry. He rules the world, basically. But you have to sell your soul, basically, and sell out to some degree to get in the industry, to be relevant in the industry. You got one quitter hitters, and people say, well, whatever happened to them? They had a great voice. They could have been somebody, but they saw this ish that was going on and said, "Nah, I can't be a part of that. Hell no." So this is the norm for Esau. Men, long hair, and then you say, well, and then you have more. They started, kind of modeling themselves more after Jake. You had Elvis. Some people may argue that he might be a Jake. But you had New Kids on the Block. You had NSYNC. You had what's that? Couple of those other bands that modeled themselves after a lot of the R&B groups. And even in music, even in the rap, like Vanilla Ice. Now Vanilla Ice, he might be a Jake. He's I think he's Irish. I think, or his lineage, he said, go back to Irish, and I could believe that, but that's neither here nor there. But this is like, you know, and nobody has questions. Nobody say anything because it's Esau. They used to Esau being like this. But you don't see our people dressing like this, all wilding out like this on a mass scale when it comes to their music. But like I say, you do have your Michael Jackson, Princes, and I don't think they were extreme as this. Prince got really he did get really extreme. Look at some of his off-camera pictures and things that he did in movies and all that. Which they didn't show nothing too obscene, but he was definitely feminine as hell. But anyway, and like I said, you could find a common Edomite that dressed like this, and he thinks he looks like Jesus and all that, because that's how they paint Jesus: long hair, feminine looking. Basically, it's like almost like a drag queen. Anyway, but I wanted to really kind of compare. Now, I do want to get that scripture. It says, 1 Corinthians 11:14. Do not even nature itself teach you that if a man have long hair, it is a shame unto him, man. But if a woman have long hair, it is a glory to her, for her hair is given for a covering. So all these rock stars, most of these rock stars, long hair and feminine looking, and um, look like drags. But like I said, that's normal among Esau. But then you got remember there was a time, if our people remember in music, you had men with beards like Marvin Gaye, and he knew he was a Jew. That's why he got this. He got the what would be similar to a yarmulke, but he wears it a little different than the small hats. Um, you had Barry White beard, and they a lot of their songs kind of they called Marvin Gaye a musical prophet, and they kind of like still had some moralism, morale in their music. Um, you know, what do you call it? And even with going back to James Brown, I think at one point he had a beard. You know, and he was called the Godfather of Soul. You had Barry White, he sung "Practice What You Preach." You had Marvin Gaye, "What's Going On." A lot of songs about the ongoing global oppression among black people. You had Teddy Pendergrass, another artist with a beard. This is in the like 70s going into the 80s. Late 70s, I think, going into the 80s, or maybe 80 early. I mean, early 80s. Um, so that custom had to come even Isaac Hayes a little bit. So you had Billy Ocean. I think he had a beard. You know, Michael McDonald. He's a Jake man, but he had a beard. I don't think I've ever seen him without a beard. He's the one that sings where they got that Warren G song from. I keep forgetting about. Doom 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 doom. They they Warren G and them made a remake of it called Regulators. But Kenny Rogers may be a Jake. You know, our people went through some crazy ass hairstyles. You know, too, and did crazy things in music. But you know, as time went on, you'll see that they kind of trimmed their ways to fit more into the Hollywood narrative, the Hollywood look, or what Hollywood expected them to look like. That's why a lot of our people they have no natural hair. Most of their hair, especially with the women, is blonde, straightened. They don't wear afros no more. You know what I'm saying? They don't wear their natural hair no more. You never see that, and if you do like some you had the era of '90s and with neo soul being very popular um, genre in music, and you had your Erica Badu's and all. They turned into witches. They were always witches, I guess, but they you could see as the time went on, they moved into being that actually, being that actually, you know. Um, and she even said that she was a witch. She even said Beyonce is a witch, but she's a different kind of witch. So then you have Ari Lennox and all them. So now the neo soul and neo music, whatever, or neo soul music has even turned its head, toward more of a narrative of the what Hollywood wants. Who else? It's somebody. Oh, the OJs. You had Gerald Levert and them, and it's some of the what do you call it? Who was that other group? I can't think of it right now. Earth, Wind, and Fire. A few of them, but Earth, Wind, and Fire. Some of them members is questionable like a mug. I mean, as far as you know, but nevertheless, our people, they do have talent. They remain to have talent and salt. That's going to always be with there, no matter if they are Mo or not. Prince is one of the greatest musicians of all time. Some of them, even Little Richard, even Michael Jackson, they've all passed. But you'll have the common man, Jake. I mean, Prince, he had, people looking at him like he was pimping. I mean, he had songs that hinted pimping too, as well as, and it could have been counted as somewhat musical prophetic. I don't really like putting those words together, but he talked about he had Thieves in the Temple. He talked about 1999 and about how year 2000, oops, party overtime. He talked about he did his fighting against the system thing with painting slave on him and all that. So the outwardly appearance doesn't always say who you are or what you're going to be. It doesn't always set correct. I'm trying to say the right thing about it. It doesn't always give off the true aura of who that person is. And we know that. I think even Stevie Wonder had a beard back then. But what I mean by that is like, you had some that go against the Illuminati and they can be effeminate as hell. Or you have some of the strongest looking ones outwardly and as far as their pattern of their life inside the music industry, and they'll be the first ones to put on a dress. So you never know how things are going to play out, but we definitely know that things have been watered down for sure, how the narrative have changed, that these artists, that it was more authentic back then. Things were more original, more natural, but like I said, doesn't mean that they were better than this generation because they were heading this way anyway. If Martin Luther King was still alive, he'll probably be doing some crazy stuff like T.D. Jakes. Who knows? He was a part of that thread anyway. Isaac Hayes. I don't know if I mentioned him. Yeah, that's not him. That's Rick Ross. But yeah. So you had our people in the music industry as artists wearing beards back then. It's starting to it came back to that because because of the truth being out, I believe. And overall, Most High putting that spirit back into the earth. But yeah, what's that other scripture? Trim thy ways for love. Hopefully it pops right up, man. That's what a lot of Jakes do in the industry. And now, it's more, I think it's Triple M. Maybe it says trimmed. Um, Cosmetic surgery wasn't popular back then among black people. You know, even uh, uh, now I would think 95% of our people in the music industry get some kind of surgery. Yeah, I'm about to close out though. Let's see, let me get in. So the music has changed. The demand of what's expected of music has definitely changed because in all actuality, I believe too. Like the small hats will always, the elite figures have always controlled the industry, music industry. But they let Jake get experimental, and I think for the sake of how they always do it, to compare and especially make money, and you know and then when Jake started really prospering and becoming like having independent record labels and all that, um, into the '90s, but you had, and it's a whole story behind that. How they had set those things up. Crazy Bone of Bone Thugs and Harmony talked about it. How they was paid to do, uh, murder music, paid to, you know, do ghetto music to influence our people uh, to do those kind of things, creating that revolving door of poverty and pain and struggle and what else ever came with it. Um, but so you did have that era of all that hood stuff, all that drug stuff, and talking about drugs and women. Now, yeah, every song that comes on the radio, um, that was played in that was made in the '90s is almost all of it's about ass and selling drugs and killing your own people. And when I listen to the Edomite station, which, like I said, some of those are Jake's, but overall, the Edomite songs, they don't talk about ass, titties, ass, box, you know, selling drugs, killing their own. I don't hear it in none of their songs. Um, I think, yeah. So let me say, trim thy ways for love, to seek love. I think those are the key words right quick. Let me see. And that's what our people are do. That's why they join gangs, because they seek love. That's why they go into the industry, want everybody to see them on camera, and they want to, because they seek love, because they haven't been, so to speak, shown love by, especially by the so-called white man. Even in the scripture it says, Israel say to the Lord, where hast thou loved us? So a lot of this pain and even this tough guy role and tough guy persona Jake puts on is because because he seeks love, man. He didn't have no love growing up, man, in the household and whatever. Jeremiah 2:33, it says, why trimmest thou thy way to seek love? Therefore hast thou also taught the wicked ones thy ways. So, they'll groom an artist and, into the industry, and they'll surrounded by their own black people. They make black films. And then when they venture into like, yeah, I want to make more money because I don't see my money that everybody else has, and I need to feed my family. I got things that I want and desire. So they say, well, oh, you're talking about big money. Well, you got to go to the white shows. You got to sell out to the white audiences. You got to start making the movies that cater to the white audience and people, and then you deal with those kind of contracts of those higher up people. So their contracts are much different. So they're gonna be like, well, yeah, you got to definitely do this. You got to put on a dress. Tell a man to put on a dress. You got to play this part, like Dave Chappelle said in his interview with Oprah. And you got to figure out like, hey, if you want to do it or not. And a lot of Jakes do it, but a lot of them Jakes like, nah, man, this is my life. Cut the contract. But he'll so you'll have a poor Jake or a Jake that's barely getting by, but he got a hit song on the radio. And they be like, well, damn, what happened to this guy? He got, you got that woman from In Vogue, Dawn. They had all kind of platinum albums or what have you, popular songs, and she said she was homeless, and the money went bad and contracts went bad and all that. TLC, same. A lot of these artists, they end up being broke, and no money. Same thing with New Edition. Same thing with a lot of these rappers. Same thing. So you know what? They get it. So now they just selling their soul. They in it to sell their soul. They in it to do the devil's bidding because they can't keep up with it. They can't make enough unless they on the devil's charts. So they have trimmed their ways to seek that love. So you do have different, you do have Esau and Jacob in these places, high and low, but Esau is ruling this place right now, music and all that. So Jake, he's like an underdog or he's coming from the low. So a lot of times for him to look like a rock star, want to be a rock star, party like a rock star, he'll shave his beard, he'll get cosmetic surgery to make his nose look smaller. He'll straighten his hair. That happened with Outkast. Andre on his part, Andre 3000. Erykah Badu, like I said before, she was a soul sister, and now she's like this damn witch. She comes and goes and her hair straightened all the time. She took off the Nubian gear and showing her ass and tights and all that. And and Angie Stone used to be like that, but guess what happened to her? She was trying to get her money back, and she demanded her money back, and now she's gone. I don't think she had any health problems. Nothing, nothing of sort reported about her that she was in mental unstable condition. So they just killed her. They killed Prince. They killed Michael Jackson. They killed Coolio. They killed a lot of people. Well, they murdered. So they know that what you gotta do to get down with the program, to continue to be a legend, to become a legacy. So they have trimmed their ways to get that love. But we see it, and we see the patterns of of what used to be and what it has become, and how they groom our people into becoming more like them while they try to be us, you know. And their motto, Hollywood, so to speak, motto, sex, rock and roll. Jake, on his part, how he breaks it down and interprets it, or how he says it in the same kind of way, but a little differently, as party and bullshit. It's the same thing. But, hey, these are some of the things mentioned that just let you know how things unfold, how things started, how things unfold, and it has biblical relations. Anyway, hopefully it's that far into the next video. Shalom.